Everyone knows the first motorcycle to be called superbike was the Honda CB754. Released in 1969, it revolutionized what speed on two wheels meant. But this wasn't Honda's first rodeo with velocity, nor would it be its last.
Very good.
Honda first entered Grand Prix racing in 1959 with the RC141 and RC142 Isle of Man challenges, but it wasn't until the mighty RC166 that the then diminutive company from post-war Japan stamped its name on the two-wheeled industry. The 166 was powered by an inline 6 with dual overhead cams and 4 valves per cylinder, with a time displacement of 249.42 cc's. It span up to 18,000 rpm and made around 60 horsepower. Weighing just 112 kilos before fuel, it won all 10 races in the 1966 World Championship with Mike Hailwood piloting. Honda pulled out of Grand Prix racing in 1968, 9 years after its first appearance at the Isle of Man in 1959. So what happened next? Honda came back, right? Of course they did. Throughout the 70s, the likes of Yamaha and Suzuki showed the world how ruthless two-stroke engines could be. Honda was firmly stroke over smoke and decided to stage a comeback to the World Championship with the oval-pistoned NR500. Why oval pistons? Honda had long preferred 4-stroke engines over 2-stroke, but the smokers could achieve a higher specific output than a 4-stroke equivalent. Honda knew it couldn't simply build a 500cc 4-cylinder 4-stroke GP bike and go out there and win. The engineering maths simply didn't add up. 4-strokes need to rev insanely high to compete with the power output of an equivalent 2-stroke, so in 1977, Honda announced it would build a V8. Sort of. The engine in the NR500 was technically a V4, but it had oval-shaped pistons with 2 conrods each and a 4-valve head. This translated into 8 conrods, 32 valves and power figures of around 130 horsepower at over 20,000 rpm. It debuted in late 1979 at the British Grand Prix with 2 bikes, both of which retired. After 3 years of perseverance, it was abandoned and replaced for the 1982 season by the NS500 2-stroke V3, which won the 1983 season with Freddie Spencer at the helm. Honda did, however, build 300 road-going NR750s, with an enlarged engine and more roadworthy riding characteristics. Some say the styling of the NR750 influenced Massimo Tamburini when he was designing the iconic Ducati 916. The 1980s saw Honda throw somewhat of a tantrum after the NR debacle, first with the NS500, then with the V4-powered NSR500. The NSR won 6 titles on the trot from 1994 to 1999. With over 100 wins to its name, the NSR remains the most dominant force in modern Grand Prix racing, and intrinsically linked Honda's name with the V4 layout. Meanwhile, as you'd expect, there was demand for regular people to be able to experience Honda's V4. The first offering came in the form of the VF750 Sabre, followed by the Magna and Interceptor, all using the V45 engine. A later update would introduce the 1100cc V65 engine to the Sabre. However, despite an onslaught of technology, including hydraulically actuated one-way clutches, track anti-dive front suspension, Pro-Link rear suspension, and electronic speedometers and tachometers, premature camshaft wear cursed those early models. Those chocolate cams led Honda to completely rework the platform and introduce the VFR line. These new V4s debuted in 1986 with the Sports Tourer VFR 750F and featured gear-driven cams and very high build quality, re-establishing Honda's reputation for bulletproof engines. The homologation RC30 was also released in 1987 to the Japanese market, with Europe following a year later and the United States getting their taste in 1990. Only 3,000 were ever made and sold for US $15,000. A lot for the time. The 750 engine was designed to win the then fresh World Superbike Championship and produced up to 118 horsepower and road trim. It included the first ever titanium conrods fitted to a production bike and a 360-degree Big Bang crank arrangement, replacing the 180-degree crank arrangement from before. This gave the engine a nice broad power band. There's actually a whole video of Honda engineers building an RC30 on YouTube, which is playing at the moment. It's a work of art, and I highly recommend you check it out. It's incredible to see the amount of passion and detail the engineers have and put into this project. It's not just another motorcycle designed to win races. It's born out of a desire to do things right and to do things the Honda way. It's amazing. The VF and VFR lines also came in 400cc flavours, beginning with the 1982 to 83 VF 400F. However, it was quickly phased out due to those pesky camshaft issues. The small capacity V4 returned in 1986 to 87 with the NC21. It had gear-driven cams, a full fairing, single headlight, a conventional dual-sided swing arm with a single shock. The clutch was hydraulically actuated, and the front forks featured Honda's track or torque reactive anti-dive circuit system with adjustable dampening on both front forks. The engine was a 180-degree crank firing version and had an RPM redline of 13,000. After the NC21 came the NC24, the first production Honda to use the sexy Alf-designed Pro-Arm single-sided swing arm, now a mainstay of the VFR design. Honda dropped the hydro clutch and raised the engine redline to 14,000 from 13. Finally, the RC30 was distilled down into the NC30 VFR 400, only officially sold in Japan. It featured a 400cc V4 derived from the RC30's power plant, meaning a 360-degree crank, twin round headlights, and the relocation of the muffler to the left, opening up that nice rear wheel. Power for the VFR series was a claimed 59 horsepower, although mods and big bore kits can net figures up to the 80s. The RC30 was replaced in 1994 by the even more advanced RVF 750 RC45. It added fuel injection, inverted forks, and a slew of engine changes. Only 200 examples were sold for homologation, and nowadays you'll be looking to part with a cool 60 grand to get the keys to one. A cheaper option for that modernised V4 exists in the RVF 400 or NC35. It left the fuel injection tech to its big brother but brought over fresh 90s styling and 42mm Showa inverted forks. Power dropped a tiny amount due to smaller carburetors and weight went up by 1 kilo. Good news for us in New Zealand, the LAM scheme here permits learners to only ride bikes that have under 150 kilowatts per tonne, and the RVF falls just under that limit. If you can find one, of course. After the 90s, Honda let the small capacity V4 die, but kept the larger engines going. Whoa! The VFR 750F turned into the VFR 800, gaining VTEC in 2002. A larger VFR 1200F debuted in 2009, featuring the first ever dual clutch automatic transmission on a motorcycle. The powertrain is potent, with a claimed 170 horsepower and 139 Nm at the crank, but a porky wet weight of 267 kilos lets the sport tourer down. In 2015, Honda released the limited edition RC213VS. Based on the MotoGP winning RC213V Racer, which continues Honda's lineage of a racing V4, the S suffix indicates it can be used on the road. It was limited to 300 units and priced at an astronomical €188,000, or about 314,000 New Zealand. A power kit was available for an extra 12,000 New Zealand dollars and upped the horsepower and torque as well as reduced the weight. However, instead of simply being a road bike with racing pedigree, the 213VS is about 90% of Marc Marquez's race machine. The only things changed beneath the bodywork were the pneumatic valves replaced with conventional springs and the seamless gearbox replaced with a conventional quickshifter. It produced a somewhat disappointing 160 horsepower without the power kit, but 215 with. That kit does come with caveats though, it isn't road legal. Well, that said, I'm sure there are a few owners out there with the power kit and lights, mirrors and indicators reattached. And just look at it, it's gorgeous. Probably not $300,000 worth, but collectors won't care. It's just a shame few examples will actually be ridden in anger. Rumours for another road-going V4 that doesn't cost a mortgage have swirled since the RVF was discontinued. The most recent news is a patent for a new rear-end design that looks to be hinting at a more affordable RC213VS, nothing official has been announced yet. I guess until that happens we'll have to make do with the Ducati V4. Hey, thanks so much for sitting through nearly 11 minutes of me ranting about Honda. I had a great time making this video and I hope you enjoyed watching it. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'll be making more videos just like this in the near future, as well as my usual vlogs and reviews and that sort of stuff. Cheers. See you next time.